Alright, so things are going well. I was saying a little bit ago that it was so weird not having like some kind of structure behind new stuff I'm writing to rely on. Um, but that's okay. That's all said and done. Basically, the small little chapter that I have right now, it kind of explains how the trio of main characters kind of came together, which is something that I had the very loose bare bones of for such a long time, but actually stitching it together and seeing it from start to finish. It's not long. It's what a normal chapter would be, more or less, and I might even play around with it a little bit more, add a little bit more stuff in. But new chapter 7, I'm thinking I'm gonna show it off. Maybe right now. If there's anything after this video, then that's what it is. But it's going good. All right.
Chapter 7. Memories. It was a rare night. The storms had raged with an intensity not seen in decades, and from Mid to Hightown, the power had gone out. It would be lost for days, as the machinists struggled to understand the process of restarting the energies they relied on. Only the residents of Lowtown were prepared, never able to enjoy the luxury of whatever powered the tools and street lamps of the towns above. They wouldn't much notice the difference were it not for the stars, that would normally be obscured. Tonight, the tiny points of light bathed the slums in the glow, illuminating the streets and buildings in a soft orange hue. The residents would remember it as a time when their surroundings might be mistaken for being quite beautiful, for even the persistent stench of filth seemed more bearable. An old woman walked alone through the winding alleyways, her eyes scanning every small nook and cranny. She moved slowly, unconcerned as parents grabbed the young and retreated into their homes, slamming the door shut and rolling down the cloth sheets that made up their windows as soon as they saw her approach. They were quite right to be wary of her. In fact, she was a monster in their eyes, a lingering relic of a more vicious time on the world of Fior, and while usually mistaken in the details of their rumors, they were not so terribly far from the truth of it, so their behavior offered no offense. There were whispers that she would consume the young in a soup in order to extend her time on Fior, and that she could melt the skin from your bones with a word, among other tales of similar madness. Absolute nonsense, for she ate no flesh from either human or beast and was never capable of controlling the wisps of magic that remained. More accurately, had she wanted to render a person to nothing more than a puddle of melted remains, she would blow a dust made from a mixture of crushed beetles and various forest plants. Such a concoction was indeed contained within one of the many pockets of her clothing, and so she was willing to forgive a few inaccuracies. And tonight, she was certainly in search of an ingredient to assist in her work. She leaned gently upon her gnarled wooden cane as she moved, her bare feet sloshing through the muck. The night was young and her instincts pulled her forward with meandering intention. Her task could only be completed upon such a night, for her eyes struggled when the artificial lights from above intensified the darkness of the slums, but with no small amount of surprise and good humor, her sense of smell was what allowed her to find that with which she sought. Someone close by did not belong here. The smell was of the farmlands beyond the mountain, a place whose people kept to the simple and quiet existence of self-preservation. It was a smell of hay and manure, of animals and a hot bath infused with scented oils. Such a scent would not wash off a person's skin for many years, no matter how the rotten odors of the slums clung to their body. She follows it but a short distance down a path, crowded with discarded boxes and littered with the trash and debris that the rains had failed to wash away. A tiny gasp gave away the source of the smell she followed, and she lifts a pile of smelly sheets over the head of a shivering and filthy little girl. Well, what do we have here? A pretty little rat, perhaps? No, not a rat at all. You seem much too helpless to come from above. Leave me alone. I may, though you'd do better to listen to my offer. I'm in need of someone just like you. I will ensure you live in exchange for quite a bit of pain. You do wish to live, or am I mistaken? The girl nods as tears begin to well within her eyes. Enough. I care not for tears. Do not overwhelm yourself. This place will treat you far worse, and you may yet grow to overcome your discomfort under my care. To master it. What do I have to do? Nothing difficult, simply listen and do as instructed. Exactly, as instructed. I am Liorza, and who might you be? I presume you've not chosen your name, so out with the truth of yourself. My name is Yeslen, she says, wiping her face but leaving a streak of wet dirt in place of her tears. Why me? Consider yourself lucky, no more reason than that. Eat this, it will give you strength to walk. We have a ways to go to my home and I'd not have you collapse upon the path. The young girl takes the brownish lump from the woman's hands. It has an unpleasant odor, but she bites into it without question. I've no talent for cooking, but it is far from poison. That would have been my own dinner. Through a grimace, she looks into the old woman's eyes and thanks her. It tastes horrid, the look on your face tells all. Do you know how to do better? I can cook a little bit. You can, she says, her eyes brightening. No need to gobble you up in a pinch then. You're joking. You don't look like you could chew through a pudding. The old woman snatches back the awful clump of food and takes a bite for herself before pressing it back into the child's hands. As a snarl of displeasure from the taste curls upon her lips, she says, "You have spirit. Good. I fear your attitude may make for rotten company once you grow a bit, but I'm nearing fatigue and will take what I can." The child tries to muster up a smile, but looks to the ground. She wasn't ready yet for such emotions. The old woman had spoken of pain, but there was also something about her that felt safe. And the possibility to master the pain intrigued her. Answer. Together they walked out of the alleyways and past the residents with their scared looks. This woman was no one to reckon with, and that, more than anything else, made her confident she had made the right choice. There would be pain, but there would also be life. And suddenly the latter was what she finally looked forward to. 9 years later. Yeslen, please. Just hear me out. I don't have time, Lornsen. You know I have to find somewhere to settle in for the night, hopefully before it rains again. That's what I'm wanting to talk about. She stops and turns to face him, a large smile plastered across her face. He catches up to her and places a small kiss upon her cheek. It wasn't what she wanted, but he always seemed to veer on the side of cautiously respectful towards her. It was part of what made him stand out. If you insist on kissing me like that, I'm going to have to rethink our relationship, she says, before closing her eyes and pressing her lips together in an exaggerated pout, puffing her cheeks out and awaiting his response. He places both hands softly against her cheeks and tries again. This time, much to her satisfaction, until he says, "I suppose we both have to work on it." That was like kissing a very beautiful fish. She pushes his shoulder as she scoffs at the comment, but her smile remains. "You're lucky you're so cute. What did you come down here to say? Come back with me to Midtown." Her entire demeanor changes. She didn't know what she expected him to say, but it wasn't that. "My family will love you. We don't have to mess around or anything, I just can't stand you living down here in the rain and muck. If you come to find your feelings for me have changed, then I would still want to see you happy, regardless. I would wear out my welcome quickly." "You wouldn't. My father is a bit of a hard ass, but if you help out with the work, he will treat you like a daughter. We need the help too. My mother even wants to meet you. I've told her a lot about you." "What have you said?" "That you're smart and beautiful and, I dunno, I've told her tons. Just give it a shot. If we head up now we can probably beat the rains." She had wanted to say yes. The words were forming on her lips, but it was already too late. His body was lifted into the air as something wrapped itself around his throat. 2 large spots of blood appeared on his chest, his right hand reaching for Yeslen, but she could do nothing but watch as he was ripped apart in front of her. Answer. She ran, fleeing back down into the winding alleyways, until she reached a dead end. Her eyes were wide open and desperately searching for whatever it was that had killed him. It was still there, but she couldn't see it at all. A shout of, "What the fuck are you doing here?" rang down the alleyway as a young boy yelled from atop a building. He jumped down to stand in front of her. He was about to tell her to leave, that this was guild territory, but he immediately understood that something wasn't right. Whoa, whoa, are you okay? He asked, with his hands raised in a placating gesture. Her whole body trembled as she stammered, "Sheer beast. Oh, fuck." The sound of the air leaving his lungs was what she heard next. He was struck hard and thrown against a building, his head smacking against the wall and leaving a bloody trail to the ground where he lay. And then it began to rain. Her and Lornsen were marked for death tonight. It wouldn't bother killing this new boy until she was dealt with. But now, she could see its form clearly. The outline of something akin to a panther was taking its time now, enjoying the final moments of its hunt. It lowered its head, raising its three-pronged tail to deliver the final strike, but a knife now stuck out of its side. I got its attention. Try to get the fuck out of here, lady. The young boy was in bad shape. One side of his face was bleeding heavily and he was leaning against the wall for support, but he stood and smiled. She would never want to forget that impossible smile, but he was going to die. They both were. The beast used its tail to remove the knife, and throws it with incredible speed towards the boy who narrowly avoids it. He was too injured to move much more and there was nowhere to go. The beast was now running towards him, all intentions to stalk its prey lost to the frenzy from being stabbed. He goes to take a step but falls to his knees onto the mud. Yeslen sank to the ground, all hope lost as she awaited her turn to die. But then, a child's scream filled the alleyway. A little girl had leapt onto its back and began stabbing it over and over with a sharpened blue stick. She stabbed into its eyes, and clamped her teeth around its neck, ripping away chunks of its flesh. It howled in pain, then fell silent. Dead. Such was the manner in which they met 6-year-old Cassandra. The young man would be collected by the guild while the small child would help Yeslen bury the remains of her friend. Cassandra would stand in the background as Yeslen delivered the news to his family. They never blamed her. The attack was one of Theo's cruel jokes that could happen at any time to anyone. They even invited her into their home, but Yeslen declined. She blamed herself for his death, even if they wouldn't. He never would have been there if not for her. Answer: Yeslen changed.